Yo, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm very pleased to announce the release of my new camera, the Pandora V2. So the Pandora V2, quite a bit different than the V1, and yeah, it's been a lot of changes. But if you're not familiar with what the Pandora is a naked Inspire 2. So this can run both X5 and X5S and X7 gimbals, so you can get up to 6K ProRes mechanically stabilized gimbal, dual control footage from a system that only weighs about 1 kilo. And I'm gonna show you some footage that I've got with this, and then we're gonna take a closer look. So yeah, let's check it out. Right, so let's take a closer look at the Pandora V2 now. And the first thing you're going to notice is that the form factor has changed. The original Pandora was more on its end, like this, and now the Pandora V2 is sideways. You'll also notice that it's using the original Inspire 2 gimbal mount. So the Pandora V2 no longer requires the use of the DJI upward gimbal mount that DJI made, that made the original Pandora possible. When I designed the Pandora, I used this upward gimbal mount so that we could put the gimbal on the top or remove the gimbal completely and attach it on the bottom, because the cables that go to this gimbal mount are not long enough to be able to move it up and down. And if you move the orientation of the brain inside here, the gimbal no longer works, or at least that was the case back then. There's been some developments in the Inspire 2 modding community, and somebody did figure out how to adjust the gyro orientation of the brain so that in the software, so that you could mount the brain sideways and it would still function properly. I get into that a bit more in the build guide, but what it essentially means is that we can run top mount or bottom mount just with a simple software change. So the Pandora V2 no longer needs that upward gimbal mount, which is £300, so it's a hell of a lot cheaper. The form factor can then change and make the entire thing a little bit smaller. So as you can see, it's a bit smaller and it's a bit slightly different form factor. The other benefit from not using that upward gimbal mount is that obviously there's a whole component there that we don't have to use. We no longer have to take the original gimbal mount apart, and we used to have to glue the button down and tape the whole thing together and put this all inside the Pandora box. Now we don't need to do any of that, so you can basically, that's why an entire side of the Pandora is basically missing, and instead we've got the gimbal mount there. This makes it a lot easier to build, but more importantly, it makes the entire system a lot lighter. So I've managed to save 300 grams off of the original Pandora. So this is now coming in at 550 grams without a gimbal connected. Once with an X5 and a lens on there, you're looking at only about 800 grams, and you've got a 4K ProRes remote operated gimbal system. That's less than 1 kilo. Now, making the system less than 1 kilo with a lens and everything attached means that mounting it to a vehicle or a drone or anything you want is a lot easier. You don't need as many suction cups. You don't need as strong of a wire if you're putting it on a cable cam. The lighter it is, the easier it is to mount. And yeah, so I've been playing around with mounting it on the back of my car and going out and driving around with a friend sat on the passenger seat filming cars. I've been mounting it with the gimbal on top to my drone. Just need an 8-inch drone and you can easily hit over 80 mile an hour. So the performance of this gimbal is insane. And I mean, it was designed to go on a drone and be able to withstand quite high winds and stuff. So obviously when you put it on something that's going fast, it's perfectly capable of coping with it. So it makes an absolute perfect car-to-car tracking camera. So as I say, the changing from top to bottom mount is all done via software. So in the top of the Pandora V2, there's a nice cutout there, so you can still access the USB. That also allows you to pull the video off of the SD card, because it's just in such an awkward place, I couldn't make it possible to get in there. I tried to make a little adapter and extension lead, but they were so bulky it made it even worse. So pulling video off of the SD card is done via USB. Takes a little while, but in reality you should be using a Cine SSD, and then it's really quick to transfer the files. You can also obviously download them through the controller onto your whatever you're running. The other main feature that is brought to the Pandora V2 is this little thing on the front, which isn't on one of these. It's optional, and this actually contains the GPS and compass off of the Inspire 2, and we've found that by running that on the Pandora V2 or the V1 even, actually can really help with long drawn out tracking shots. Occasionally the roll axis will drift, and by running the GPS compass module attached and working, it solves that issue. You might have seen that, like with the Ronin handheld gimbals, you can buy an additional GPS module that attaches to it to prevent drift on roll axis. Well, yeah, it's the exact same thing that's going on here. Don't know exactly what it's all about. I think it's more to do with the compass than the actual GPS, but I could be wrong there. But yeah, by adding that to the Pandora V2, it completely resolves the roll drift issue. But as I said, it's optional, so you don't have to run it at all. And of course, you can run it top or bottom mount. The GPS and compass module that attaches on the front there can be turned upside down as well. So if you're running the gimbal on top, you obviously turn that up so the compass is facing up. And if you're running it bottom mount like I am here, you have the compass facing upwards on top, so that you always get a good signal. And yeah, as I said, that just alleviates the roll drift issue. Now in the top plate here, I've got this just mounted straight into a 1/4-20 thread. There's actually 2 1/4-20 threads on the top there, and there's also the locking pin holes as well. So if you're using a tilter mount that has those little pins that stop it from twisting, you can use those as well. If you have any issues with mounting, say you've got a really short thread and you can't get it into the 1/4-20 threads on the top mount here, you can actually remove the plate completely, remove the 1/4-20 threads and bolt on a cheese plate. By being able to remove the 1/4-20 threads and fit a cheese plate to the outside, just makes it a lot more versatile and easier for people to rig up. You might want multiple points, and you could put a big wide cheese plate on there and have multiple suction cups to it if that's how you wanted to go. Personally, I've just been using a single 1/4 thread straight into the top into a Fat Gecko, Delkin Fat Gecko suction mount, and it's got more than enough strength to hold the camera steady. So you don't need 10 arms and loads of different mounting points. As I said, this is only weighing 1 kilo. And especially if you don't mount the battery to the same place as here, say you could just have one suction cup with a cheese plate screwed into it, you could get one of those little V-mount clips that screw in, and then just put your V-mount separate and run a cable into this. Now, yeah, talking about power, obviously it still runs on 6S power. It can actually run on down to about 20 volts, I found. So 20 to 24 volts is what you want to send into it. So it's easy if you use a 6S LiPo straight into the XT60 connector, but you can use a V-mount battery, even one that only has a 12 volt out, because you can buy a little voltage upscaler I've managed to find. Costs about £30 on Amazon, and it takes your 12 volt and ups it to 24, I believe. And it's designed for running camera equipment that needs higher voltage, like the Pandora V2. So yeah, you could use a V-mount battery. Some V-mount batteries have 20 volt output as well, usually over the USB-C. So you'll need to make a little cable that goes USB-C to XT60, but then you'll be able to run it straight off of your V-mount batteries. So really easy to power, to be fair. And although there's no mounting for a battery on here currently, there is actually 2 1/4 threads on the side here, so it would be really easy to make a little bracket to hold a battery on the side if that's what you wanted to do. You could always use that as well for extra secure mounting if you did want an extra suction cup in the side, because I noticed quite a lot of people do like to do that because it does kind of stop the whole thing from moving from side to side. So if you're going on a really fast car on a really bumpy road, then you might want that. Or if you're attaching it to a helicopter or a plane, that might also be a good idea, just to use the extra one. Okay, so as I say, in the back here, there is XT60 for plugging in. And you put your SSD in the side, which I've got mine in there. The other big improvement over the V1 is cooling. So I know that a few people had issues with the little fan that we used in the Pandora V1, just wasn't enough to keep it cool. So this fan is now twice the size, and it's the highest quality fan that you can buy. It's a Noctua, so it's really, really powerful, very efficient, and quiet. Very quiet as well. So if you're using this in a closed setting, indoors for example, it's not going to be making loads of noise trying to keep the thing cool. It exhausts out the back there. There should be a grill there, but this is just a little prototype, the original Pandora V2 prototype that I'm just using to help show you some things while this one's all rigged up. You can turn the fan on and off independent to the system. So in between takes, you can keep the system cooling down without powering up the camera. So for in the really extreme heat situations, that's what that's used for. So and then you've got the switch around the side here. So if you just power that up, I turn these controllers on as well. So at the end of the day, it is still an Inspire 2, so you do still need to use 2 controllers. You need a main controller and a slave controller to be able to use the gimbal with the sticks. So highly recommend using a Sendense controller and a Crystal Sky monitor, because they just work really well together. and it means that you get all your camera settings on the screen as well. So if you're running the camera top mount and all your screen is upside down, or you've had to flip the monitor so all your settings and everything are all upside down, you can just use the little screen on the controller to see your camera settings. And there's buttons and stuff so you can adjust it all really easily without having to use the touch screen. So yeah, just like the Pandora V2, it works exactly the same. You got your controller so you can move your gimbal around, very easy. And obviously it's just like a Pandora, it's just like an Inspire 2, so you can adjust all the speed and rotation or softness that you want to use on the gimbal. You'd think maybe that looking up you could see that GPS unit, but it's completely out of view. The lenses that you generally use with these with the Pandora, they're not that wide, so it surprisingly it actually misses the GPS unit, which sticks out quite a bit. It needs to stick out as far as possible to keep it away from all the electronics inside, otherwise the compass and the GPS don't calibrate properly. But yeah, as you can see here, I got my screen, I got my feed, and you can start and stop the recording. It's just, yeah, it's an Inspire 2, only a fraction of the size and a fraction of the weight. I'm really, really pleased with how this has worked out. Being able to reduce the weight is a really major factor. Makes it so much easier to mount on stuff and therefore easier to use. Alright, so there you have it really. I mean, what else is there to say? It's the new Pandora V2 from HaloRC. I hope you like it. If you've got any comments, leave them in the comments section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters.